Thanks for joining this webinar on how to close more clients without seeming pushy, needy, or desperate. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you an approach that will make your sales job a whole lot easier and much more fun. First, a little background. My name is Marv, and I've spent almost 40 years refining the perfect blend of sales, persuasion, and conversational hypnosis as both an owner, salesman, manager, and coach. In addition to an MBA, I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist. And here are some of the industries in which my unique approach has proven very successful: consumer finance, life insurance, real estate, mortgages, customer service, collections, and many other small business products and services. The question I get asked most these days is, how can I differentiate myself in an industry where my product is becoming viewed as a commodity because of the internet? And the answer always is sell with emotion. You might ask, why is emotional intelligence so important these days? And why is it especially important in sales? And the answer is because buyers are awash in information and facts, just too much information, but they don't know what to trust anymore. If you think about the last 10 years since social media has become so prominent, nowadays you can find out just about anything on the internet. What you can't find out is if it's true or not. And obviously, an uncertain buyer is a reluctant buyer. The definition of emotional intelligence is the ability to perceive, use, understand, manage, and handle emotions to ethically influence and persuade. That's what sets you apart and helps your uncertain buyer become a certain buyer. So what's really going on in the world? Well, here's an interesting fact. Recently, an analysis was undertaken that determined that fake news spreads 6 times faster than the truth. Now, in our digital age, what that means is telling lies is very profitable. If fake news gets 6 times more clicks and you're an internet company and you're monetizing those clicks, that means telling lies is very profitable, maybe even 6 times more profitable than the truth. I call this mining for dopamine, or click mining, and the big internet companies are making fortunes on all of this chaos. Edelman Trust Barometer comes out each year and evaluates the state of trust in the world in all different industries and types of enterprises. What they have declared the year 2021 as is the year in which we declare information bankruptcy. People just don't know what to trust or who to believe. Let me quote from the report itself. We have studied trust for more than 20 years and believe that it is the ultimate currency in the relationship that all institutions, companies and brands, governments, NGOs, and media build with their stakeholders. Trust defines an organization's license to operate, lead, and succeed. Trust is the foundation that allows an organization to take responsible risk, and if it makes mistakes, to rebound from them. For a business especially, lasting trust is the strongest insurance against competitive disruption, the antidote to consumer indifference, and the best path to continued growth. Without trust, credibility is lost and reputation can be threatened. So when we talk about emotional intelligence and we think about what emotion are we talking about, what we're really talking about is trust. It is the single most important emotion according to a LinkedIn State of Sales report from last year. What they found is, and stated, as organizational trust erodes, buyers can seem to crave it more. When asked what qualities they value in a salesperson, buyers ranked trustworthy at the top. So answer these 2 questions for yourself and your business. How do you differentiate yourself in an economy where consumers don't know what to believe as true? And here's the next question. How do you differentiate yourself in an industry where your product or service is viewed as a commodity? So as you know, because of the amount of information on the internet, most industries are being commodified. It's much more difficult for consumers to distinguish from one product to the next. That leads us to rule number 1. People are influenced to change by people they trust. And if you're in sales, you're in the change business. Now, the corollary to rule number 1 is this: buyers are desperate to find people they can trust. So let's test this idea. Think of the last new client you lost. You had a prospect, you made your pitch, you did your best, they didn't buy. Do you know why or how you lost that sale? Now, I know you probably got some pretty convincing excuses from them, and you may have even believed some of those excuses. But here's the facts. Odds are 9 out of 10 that you lost that sale because they just didn't trust you enough to keep going. It wasn't because you didn't have a better product or your price was off or your competition or because they needed to go talk it over with their wife or partner or husband. They just didn't trust you enough to keep going. Qualified sales are almost always lost over just these two things: trust or money. So you might ask yourself the question, well, what happened to that buyer? They didn't buy from me. Are they still out there thinking about it? And the answer is no. They just bought from a better salesperson. So you might ask, if buyers want a relationship so bad, why do they keep asking so many factual questions? You may actually have been in a sales call where they just keep asking more and more questions. Well, we can thank the internet for this. Dr. Google has trained the public to think that more information solves all problems. It's kind of turned everybody into thinking that they're an expert. The problem is, more information does not solve all problems, and it certainly does not build trust. So based on this idea, I like to divide buyers into two different types. The first is, and this is, I'm speaking primarily about business to consumer prospects, about 80% of the people that you talk to are relationship buyers. This means that they are looking for a relationship of trust in order to buy. Now, this percentage varies somewhat if you are talking about B2B buyers. Most of the remaining 20% of buyers act like a fact buyer when they come to you. They're going to ask you lots of facts, and most of these people will only buy when they get a certain set of facts. But even those people will revert to being a relationship buyer once they have qualified you as being someone that they can trust to give them the information that they want. So people will then say, well, why do they keep asking all of these factual questions and raise factual objections during the sales call? Well, part of that is because they've been trained to think that that's how they are supposed to buy by the internet and by salespeople who have fallen into that same trap. But the answer to this question is they mostly ask questions, especially in the beginning of your sales relationship, to decide if they can trust you, not to make a decision about whether to buy. So the question becomes, what is trust? And how do you get it? Now, for most people, that's a hard question to answer. And you'll have a wide variety of ways that you think that you build trust. So for our discussion, I'd like to use this definition. Trust is an outcome. In other words, trust is the result of feeling deeply understood. Now, this isn't just true in business and in sales. It's true everywhere. You've probably heard the saying that people buy on emotion and justify with logic. And have you ever wondered why that's true? The answer is that as humans, one of our most powerful natural instincts is the need to feel understood and accepted. We want to connect with others. We want to fit in. We need to feel safety and security, and we need to feel in control. Well, how do we do this? Well, we communicate with the prospect's unconscious mind. That's where all of their emotions are. And communicating with them through their unconscious mind, which is when we say people buy on emotion, what we're saying is this is happening in their heart mind or their unconscious mind. And communicating there is the key to unlocking those emotions that allow them to move forward and then justify with logic. And for you as the salesperson, you need to learn to rely on those emotions as well. And our byword is simply this: trust your intuition or your emotions as if your life depended on it in a sales call. So, how do you sell with emotion? And specifically, how do you sell with trust? Well, let's start with what you've been taught to do that is probably losing you or costing you business right now. Undoubtedly, somewhere in your sales training or your sales experience, you've heard this before. Find something in common to talk about. Get them to say yes a lot. Get them to tell you or tell them about your personal story and all your qualifications. Then give them lots of information and then give them more information. Be enthusiastic, be more excited about they are and more positive, and show them the best solution for their problems. And here's the problem. Some of this actually may have worked once, and in certain situations it works, but for the most part it doesn't work anymore. People are very skeptical, they're very defensive, and very resistant when you come across feeling and sounding salesy. Most of them are already onto this, and it feels salesy to them. So we're now living in what I call the PTE, or the post-trust era. And there's a couple of things to remember. The truest words your client will ever hear are the ones that just came out of their own mouth. Notice that I did not say what just came out of your mouth. And here's the second thing. This comes from the poet Maya Angelou. People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. The key to success in this era is communicating with people on an unconscious level by talking about and with their emotions. Clients feel great when they think up their own solution to their problems. And the art of elegant persuasion is to lead them to that outcome, where you have guided them into the proper solution, but they believe that it is their own idea. When that happens, and they feel great, and it happens in your presence, they associated that great feeling, that emotion, with you. And the result of that is they begin to trust you a little bit more. Do this over and over, and pretty soon your clients are less concerned about how you solve their problem than that you are the one that helps them solve their problem by leading them to their own conclusions. Let me give you an example of this. Back in the day, I was hired to solve a big problem. The company was in the film distribution business, and they had a group of clients that were mostly grandmas and moms who were buying really family-friendly films for their children. This is back in the day of videotape. And what had happened is they accidentally sent R-rated videos to this group of people, and they sent them by the hundreds and hundreds. And as soon as they arrived, the phones in customer service started ringing off the hook. And the employees in customer service were in an absolute panic. People were yelling at them, screaming at them, wanting to threaten with lawsuits and money damages, and you're ruining my family. My child or my grandchild turned this on, and you can't imagine what they saw. So, as you can imagine, this was a big problem. So I said, all right, we're going to change how we are answering these calls. When someone calls and they're very angry, I want you to listen to everything they say without interrupting until they pause. And when they pause, I want you to repeat back to them 1 to 3 of the most emotional things that they just said. Not in your own words and not with any other words, just the exact words that the client says. And then say, tell me more. And let them keep doing that with you simply repeating back to them their own words until they've run out of gas. And once they've run out of gas, you simply say this: I am so sorry, we take full responsibility for this mistake, and we will do whatever you feel is fair and is within our power to make this right for you. How would you like us to fix this problem? Now, when I mentioned this and said this is the scripting we're going to use with these angry clients that are calling us, the employees just went into a panic. We'll go broke. They're going to demand everything we have. And I said, well, let's just test this. So we tested it, and they were absolutely shocked, because once they did what I'd asked them to do, and they got to the point where they said, what would you like to do? We'll do whatever you feel is fair. Invariably, the response was some version of this. Oh, well, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that you understood how I felt. Now that I know that you do, I don't really care. Just send me a replacement film. That will be fine. None of them asked for damages. None of them asked for any lawsuits or threats. They just wanted to be understood. And once they did, they really didn't care how the problem was solved. That is probably true of many of your clients as well. So let's go back to the hypnosis part for just a minute. Here are 3 different ways of describing conversational hypnosis. And first, let me say, I'm not trying to teach you to be a hypnotist. I'm not asking you or proposing that you learn how to put people into trance, put them into sleep, or teach them how to bark like a dog when somebody asks them if they'd like a Coke. Conversational hypnosis is very simple, and here are 3 descriptions. It's a process for persuasion and influence that is enhanced by suspending disbelief and resistance. Here's another one. It's the ability to lead someone by capturing their imagination. And last, it's a way to speak directly to the center of emotion while bypassing the center of logic. That's what conversational hypnosis is, and great leaders, great communicators, and great salespeople use this naturally and automatically. So think of some of the great persuaders in history you may be familiar with. Steve Jobs comes to mind, Winston Churchill, John F. Kennedy, Socrates, Adolf Hitler, Martin Luther King Jr., Muhammad Ali, Mr. Rogers, Tony Robbins. This is just to name a few in your own organization. You probably have people who are doing this and aren't even aware of it. All of them have mastered the use of these principles that you see on the screen right here. Let's just take a look at some examples of how this works. And in this case, I'm just going to use 5 separate words, which when used skillfully can lead a client to a positive change without the client feeling the need to resist it. So let's use the word because, and here's a typical script. While you're listening to me, you can start to see a path for change. And because you're starting to see a path, you can feel comfortable, because comfort builds more confidence. Here's another one using the word and. You can be confident and feel comfortable with our conversation. And the comfort you feel will make you even more confident. And the more you feel comfort, the more you'll be confident. Here's another one, the word as. As you listen to my answers to your questions, you can start to focus your attention on the change you're considering. As your attention focuses, you can become aware of the deeper reasons for making a change. Let's talk about imagine. Can you imagine paying 0 tax? Imagine withdrawing money and reporting $0 on your 1040. And lastly, which means. You have been studying retirement solutions for some time now, which means that you are ready to learn something of tremendous value. The fact that we are talking about this right now means that you are learning at a powerful level. Now, I realize these might be focusing on an industry that's different than yours, but the principle is the same. Using these kinds of powerful language patterns, and many of the others that I teach, you can help people make changes that they weren't previously considering, and they will do it without resistance, and they will feel like they came up with the idea all by themselves. Now, does this stuff work? The answer is, you'd better believe it works. The next question you might be wondering, Is this manipulation? Are we taking advantage of people? And the answer is maybe. Could this be dangerous if that's true? And the answer is obviously it can. I mean, just look at the kind of changes great persuaders like Hitler are responsible for. But it can also be powerfully positive when you use it ethically and with the client's best interest at heart. So here's the difference between good persuasion. According to Aristotle, persuasion is inherently good because through it, the truth becomes known. We're simply helping the client discover that truth for themselves. Now, how does that compare with manipulation? Well, according to Aristotle, manipulation is inherently bad because it withholds truth by misleading or distorting. So if your intention in working with me or learning these principles is to use it for manipulation, you plan to withhold truth and mislead or distort the information, please don't call me. I'm not interested in that. But if you're interested in making sure your clients have the best available information so that they can make their own appropriate decisions, this just might be a great opportunity for you. Let's take a look at some of the real life examples of some of my clients whose lives and businesses were changed by learning and using powerfully persuasive language patterns that build trust. So this is Brunel. He's a small business owner and he has a brilliant idea. It was just growing too slowly. He was missing leads that he knew would benefit from his product, who needed it and who wanted it. He just couldn't get them over the hump. So using these patterns, we customized a new sales script for him, focusing on building trust. It enabled him to raise his prices, and the result was that he doubled his sales. Here's Nelson. Now, sometimes I coach one-to-one, and sometimes I coach an entire team at the same time, because that can be more cost-effective if you're working with a team. In Nelson's case, I did both. I coached his entire team as a group. And then separately, I coached him on how to manage the process with the team when I was finished. So he had a sales team that was wasting too many leads. He knew that those were deals that could be had. They just were missing them. And part of it was because their calls were very transactional and heavily focused on price and rate. They were in a very competitive market. Once they learned how to sell on emotion and build trusting relationships, price and rate became less important. As a matter of fact, price is rarely the most important issue for most people. It's just the only thing they know how to bring up as an objection. The result of this was that close rates went up, client satisfaction went up, and employee success also went up. This is Noah. So Noah is in a market that is very competitive. Everybody is buying from the same suppliers. Everybody has the same fixed price. So it is very different to differentiate yourself. In addition, his product had a very complex sales process, and people could get into the trap of just dealing on facts and information. By learning the trust close and how to deal with his clients from a basis of trust and dealing with their emotions, he was able to shorten his sales cycle almost in half, and he doubled his annual income in a very short period of time. Lastly, let's meet Jenny. So Jenny is working in an industry that is heavily dominated by men. So it puts her at a slight disadvantage in the client's eyes because they have certain expectations. So she learned this process and focused on building lifelong high trust relationships with her clients. The result was that she now easily persuades and influences them, having them feel grateful for her help, and in addition is able to gain and maintain the respect of her male peers. Not that that was her goal, but it's a nice thing to have. The result of all of this is that she lives and earns at an elite income level. Well, I hope by now you're asking yourself, how do I find out if this is a good fit for me? My business is different, mine is unique, whatever your situation is. So what I'd like to suggest is that we set up a free strategy call to explore your situation and discuss how this might apply to you. During this call, I will personally demonstrate how to sell with emotional intelligence using what I call the trust close system. So you can see it in action and you can judge for yourself. It's a step-by-step process for how to help your client feel deeply understood, and it results in deeper trust and a smoother and shorter sales cycle, which for most people means you're also going to make more money. Now, this strategy call is not a hard sale. By now, you can probably tell that my approach is very open, very consultative. In fact, here's exactly what will happen at the end of this call after I've answered all your questions. I'm just going to ask, would you like my help implementing the Trust Close system in your business? And you will simply answer, yes, I would, or no, I wouldn't. Now, the best thing that can happen is you will love the low-key, no-pressure sales plan I demonstrate, and you will choose to become a client of mine. Or you won't. Your choice. I'm going to be okay either way. And if you don't get involved, we'll still part as friends, and hopefully we'll be able to communicate down the road. Now, I should point out that I do have some limits to my capacity for new business, and I can only handle a few clients each month. So to make the kind of change that will set you apart from your competition and grow your business right now, taking this call is the single most important thing you can do. So just walk through the door that's in front of you right now. Click the button and book a call. I look forward to visiting with you.